Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 6s and compare it against the iPhone 6s Plus and see which particular iPhone is a better one for you. Now, I think in this day and age, everyone probably knows this by now. I don't think either one of these particular devices are worth buying, and you're probably way better off purchasing a device that is still supported with software. Neither one of these devices are still supported with software, so I would not recommend purchasing either one of these phones in my personal opinion. However, there are a lot of iPhones that are still completely worth buying, and I will go ahead and leave all those particular devices linked down in the description, so you can get that from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of these particular devices, the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6s Plus came out at the exact same time for the most part. So there wasn't really like this big massive difference. They, came out at the exact same time. So because of that, you're basically going to be getting the same type of, internals for the most part, but there are going to be some differences here as well. So for starters, for one, with both these devices with the iPhone 6s, you're going to be getting a 4.7-inch IPS panel on it. Now it is it's a very basic panel for the most part. There really isn't anything super crazy going on with this, particular device. And I do think for the most part, most people will look at a phone like this and probably see that it's a very old type of device. And that's what kind of ends up happening when you're getting an older, iPhone like this. It has a home button on it. It's fairly old. It's fairly archaic in a lot of ways, but it's not terrible. But it is just one thing to kind of keep in mind here, that it is a significantly older type of device when it comes down to it. Now on top of that, with the iPhone 6s Plus, this is also a little bit of a different story. So with this one, it is a significantly bigger phone. So it has a 5.5-inch Retina IPS panel on it. And this is something that's actually very nice going on here. So with both these phones, having that type of capability is very nice because they're, okay panels, but both these phones came out in 2015. So because of that, you're going to be getting a very, very older type of styling on it. That's just kind of what ends up happening. Now beyond that, and some other big things to keep in mind here too, with both these devices, they're both Retina panels, which is good. And you're getting Touch ID 2 on the front side of these particular panels as well, which again is a very nice thing. And for an old iPhone, I guess that's what you'd expect, but these are older type of styling of devices when it comes down to it. Another big thing to keep in mind here too, between both, is that they're both giving you Lightning ports. And these are actually both the last iPhones that basically went ahead and gave you headphone jacks. Since then, we pretty much never have gotten a headphone jack on any iPhone since then. Actually, the iPhone SE first generation kind of, but these ones are kind of the last main flagship ones, which is actually pretty legendary in and of itself. The fact that we had that type of capability on these devices, these ones being kind of the last ones, is kind of good in some ways. So I do think this in and of itself is a very interesting thing going on for these two devices as well. Now on top of that, on the backside, you're getting aluminum backs, you're getting single camera setups as well, which again is a very nice thing. I love having that type of capability here, and I think if you're going to go and pick up a device, it is very nice to have this type of styling and have this type of capability and build quality, which again is very cool. On top of that, some other big things here. You're going to be getting the Apple logo in the center, but some things that this phone is missing out on that the average phone nowadays basically has. You don't really have any certified IP certification on here, which can be kind of a disadvantage. You're also missing out on things like, no wireless charging, no reverse wireless charging in some main flagship phones that we have, no USB-C. There's a lot of things that are missing on this phone that you're basically getting on a lot of basic phones in, this day and age, but I totally get it. It's kind of what you see is what you get with these types of older iPhones, and that kind of covers it up here for the most part. There really isn't anything else super crazy going on here. In terms of a price tag, I can definitely tell you when it comes down to both these price tags, you could probably see that for the most part, both these iPhones are going to be fairly cheap, but the iPhone 6s Plus is going to be the more expensive phone when it comes down to these two. So that right there is another very big thing to kind of keep in mind there as well. Now another big thing is the cameras. The one thing you have to keep in mind here is that with both these cameras, they are a little bit interesting. So they're exactly the same type of camera for the most part. You are going to be getting some differences here, with some capability that's going to be different. But the big thing to keep in mind here is that they both can do 4K, and these were actually the last iPhones that basically had 4K capability. Since then, we haven't really gotten 4K capability. We've gotten 4K, but not big, massive. We haven't gotten 8K yet. So these iPhones were basically the last ones to go and bring massive differences as far as I can tell, which in and of itself is actually pretty insane in so many different ways. So I do think in that particular perspective, you're going to be getting basically a phone, in my opinion, on the iPhone 6s Plus that might be a little bit of a better camera. But even then, it's fairly much the same thing. There's not really too many differences here either. And I do think, once again, that in and of itself is another very big thing to kind of keep in mind there as well. So personally for me, from the camera side, definitely without a doubt, the iPhone 6s Plus and the iPhone 6s are almost exactly the same thing. But if you're wanting the better camera, these ones aren't really going to be that big of a difference compared to even an iPhone 7. You're going to have to go up to like an iPhone 8 Plus or an iPhone 10R to see even bigger differences. Those are the ones that I look at as probably being the better ones for a lot of people as well. And I'd probably recommend a majority of people to go and buy those devices when it comes down to it. So that kind of covers it up there for the most part as well. Now, on top of that, another big thing to keep in mind here too is with the software longevity. Both these phones are basically done getting software support, and they've been done getting software support for so many generations of software now. And as I mentioned, that's kind of what ends up happening when you're going through and picking up these types of phones. If you're going to go ahead and pick up a device, I hope you know that, both these phones are absolutely done getting software support, and they are no longer going to be getting software support for many, many generations of software. These ones stopped at iOS 15. We're now in iOS 18 beta. So we've been done for so many years now, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense to go and buy a device like this anymore because you're basically going to be done from that particular side as well. So once again, what's the point of that, of getting these types of devices if you're going to be stuck in this type of situation? And I do think that in of itself is another very, very big thing to kind of keep in mind there as well. I like these phones, they're great. They brought a lot to the table, but definitely from a software perspective side, these things are absolutely done, and it makes zero sense whatsoever to go and buy a device like this in my personal opinion. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. Now, on top of that, another big thing to keep in mind here is with the performance. And as I said before, the performance of these devices are basically the exact same thing. So you're not really going to feel like one device or the other phone are giving you different type of capability or different type of anything. They're basically going to be the exact same type of performance level, the same chipset and everything that you're going to be getting. So I would hate for you to go and buy a phone like this if you were expecting it to be different from the performance side. And that really isn't what's going on here. You're basically going to be getting the same type of performance, the same type of everything on these two devices, which I think is good. I think that's totally fair. But it's not really that great of a performing phone anymore. And it's funny is, more than anything, the big problem that I kind of have with these two devices or these types of devices is the fact that with something like these, you have to constantly click the home button. Having to constantly click the home button over and over and over again can be a very annoying thing. And I do feel like that in and of itself is a very annoying thing when it comes down to it. I just hate having to constantly click that, the home button on the front. And this can be a very annoying thing when it comes down to it. So the gestures and everything are great. I prefer gestures over anything else. And like I said, that's kind of the big thing that kind of ends up happening when you're getting these types of phones. So that in and of itself, once again, is another very big thing to kind of keep in mind there as well. So overall, what I'll definitely tell you, I love these types of phones. I think they're very, very good, and I love them when it comes down to it. But I would probably say there's probably no reason at all picking up a phone like this. You are significantly better off buying a phone that is still supported with software, and with a device like the iPhone, 6S, 6S Plus, these ones are not supported with software, and I would not recommend buying these types of phones anymore. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and I do think you're much better off purchasing a device that is still supported with software over than these particular phones. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there as well. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit the subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.